and then
yeah,
I guess people can just join if they come later on, right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Great. Okay, so I'll just introduce you, Karen, if that's all right.
Perfect.
So thank you, everyone. And sorry, we're just a couple of minutes late. We're just going through a couple of technical issues we had before the webinar started. But thank you, everyone, for coming along to this webinar. So you're able to access this webinar as the organisation that you work for is one of our Working With members. I'm Paul from Cavell. And as you may know, we support nurses and midwives going through crisis and hardship. So as I mentioned, your organisation you work for is one of our Working With members, and one of the perks, if you like, of your organisation joining is that you get to join webinars like this, as well as lots of other resources and advice that we have on our website as well. So, well, you're welcome to check that out sometime. So today's webinar, let me just grab the information about this, but we have Karen Janes with us, and the webinar is overcoming compassion fatigue. I just lost my information here. It might be easier if I hand you over to Karen to talk about what she does. So I'll hand over to Karen now, and what we'll do is, if anyone has any questions as we go through, if you put those questions in the chat, I'll have a look at those and relay those to Karen when she pauses and checks on that. But any questions anyone's got, just put them in the chat. Okay, over to you, Karen.
Perfect, thank you. And I can see, Paul, that Fenella's already got her hand up, so I'm going to leave you to see what she needs, because I don't know how to deal with hands up.
Sure,
Sorry.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, Fenella, if you can just put your question in the chat, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar. I'm Karen, and my business is the KJ Way. You'll have to excuse me because all I'm seeing is my screen and some little empty boxes. So hopefully you can see everything. But if there's any problems as we go through the webinar, then just pop a message in the chat, and Paul's going to monitor that for us. So that's very kind of you. Thank you, Paul. So yes, welcome to this webinar today. My business is all about helping people feel great at work, to be more resilient, to feel happy, to feel enthusiastic and passionate at work, and to overcome some of the challenges that we face in the stressful and busy, overwhelming workplaces that many of us now work in. So I'm all about sharing tools and practices, and that's what we're going to do today, sharing tools and practice to help people feel a little bit more in control and to manage their workload in a way that boosts their resilience and supports their well-being. So today we're focusing on compassion fatigue. So hopefully you'll find some new tools and practices that maybe you haven't used before to help you deal with the sort of compassion fatigue that's very often common in these caring roles that you work in. So I've worked in the charity sector for 20 years before I set up my business in senior roles. The last role was in a large animal welfare charity, and so we had a lot of compassion fatigue amongst our frontline team members, but also across the organisation, because we were dealing with a lot of trauma, a lot of loss, a lot of suffering, a lot of grief in the organisation. So I'm familiar with compassion fatigue and how overwhelming it can feel. So I'm really pleased today to be able to share some techniques with you. What I would say is you've been very kindly and graciously to yourselves carved out this bit of time for your self-care and your well-being. So if you just want to take a moment now to do whatever you can that can support you in the next hour, so maybe turning off any distractions, any emails, silencing the phone, all of that sort of stuff. And just a sort of energy tip, it's really helpful if you can stay in an open and receptive posture while we go through the webinar to allow the information that we're sharing to come into your system fully. So if you can try and keep your arms and legs and hands and feet uncrossed as we go through the webinar. And that's actually also quite a good tip for compassion fatigue. So if you go into a room, a situation, or a conversation where you can sense the energy in the room is stressful or anxious or worrying or traumatic, and you don't want that to enter your physical system, if you cross your arms or your legs, it prevents those sort of energy infiltrating your field. So you'll still feel that stress, that energy of the room while you're there, but when you leave the room, if you've remained crossed in any way, as long as it's comfortable and appropriate to do so, then you can protect your own personal energy field from absorbing that energy later on in the day. Okay, so let's move on. So I wanted to start with, one more thing to say. There's going to be a meditation at the end of the session. I know meditation isn't for everybody, and it isn't for everybody in a group like this. So I've left it right at the end. So we'll go through all of the practices and tools. We'll have question and answers, and we'll have meditation session right at the end. So you're very, very welcome to stay for that. If you need to leave, that's fine. Or if meditation in a group setting's not for you, you can leave and listen back on the recording. Or, of course, you can just miss it out altogether, whatever suits you and what you need today the best. So we're going to start with just role modeling a practice that you can use in your own working environment whenever you've got a new shift or a new meeting or a new event or a new activity. And we just share 1 minute of silence together. And it just recognizes and acknowledges that when we come to these activities and events, our attention can somewhat be somewhat scattered. We've been thinking about other things. We've been running from one meeting or one sort of event to another, activity to another. And we just allow ourselves this 1 minute to sit together in silence and just allow our minds and our bodies to start to settle, to calm down, and to start to get ready to focus on what we're going to do together now. So I'm just going to set the clock for just 1 minute. And I'll let you know when that minute's up. So you can just close your eyes for a minute or take a soft downward gaze. If you like, you can focus on the physical sensations of breathing in your body, or maybe the sensations in your hands or your feet, and just sit quietly for 1 minute. So we'll start now. Okay, so that's our 1 minute of silence. And hopefully you're starting to feel a little bit more tuned in. You've had a little moment to rest and start to focus on what we're here to do together. So let's move on. So just start off with a quick definition. And I love to share this definition of compassion fatigue from Charles Figley. So compassion fatigue is the cost of caring. And this is the bit I love the most about this quote. It's the deep physical, emotional, and spiritual exhaustion that can result from working day to day in an intense caregiving environment. So really strong, powerful words there about physical, emotional, and spiritual exhaustion. And I like to share this because it just underlines how important this issue is and how significant it can be for you and your teams and people working in caring environments. So compassion fatigue is this sense of burnout, if you like, and it's related specifically to the impact of working in caring environments. Compassion is all about being together with someone else's pain or suffering or trauma and feeling moved to help and support and relieve that in some way yourself. So it's that sort of interaction, that relationship between you and someone else, and feeling moved to do something to help them. And if we're not careful, if we're not protecting ourselves, doing the right self-care ourselves, over time, when we're giving this care to other people amongst their suffering, their pain, their trauma, day in, day out, it can start to have a really negative impact on our own sense of well-being, our own resilience, and our own health. So it can then be difficult to continue giving care to the way we would love to do so, without our compassion waning and having an impact on our personal health. So in some ways, then other people's trauma starts to become a little bit your own trauma. So this is why it's really important that we're clear on what compassion fatigue is, and we put in preventative strategies to help us recover and prevent it happening to us. So who does it affect? Well, obviously, as you might expect, it affects those people who are caring or in service to other people, carers, helpers, healers, rescuers. It's very well known as an occupational hazard in sort of high care industries such as your own, doctors, nurses, hospice workers. But it also can help people in the can impact people in the wider organisation. So certainly when I worked at the animal charity, people on the front line who were having to put to sleep animals, having to deal with people losing their pets, giving up their pets, really struggled. But when we did some research, people across the organisation were also having the impact, feeling the impact of compassion fatigue as those colleagues on the front line were talking about their stories, sharing case studies. It started to have a sort of a suppressing impact on the well-being of other people across the organisation. And the same with our family and friends. If we go home at night and we tell our stories and what happened throughout our day and the pain and suffering we've been helping people with, it can start to impact on the well-being of those people around us. So it can be quite insidious in that way. And in the research into compassion fatigue shows that it's often other directed people that suffer from this the most. And other directed people are exactly those people who choose to be in caring professions. They're people that want to help others, they've been taught through their sort of childhood modeling and their formative years that other people's needs and care is more important than theirs, and that you should serve other people before you sort yourself out. And obviously this can cause quite some difficulty for people working in these environments if they're not looking after their own self-care. So if you've had a sort of secure upbringing with lots of loving, validating experiences, validating your emotions and your thoughts and well-defined personal boundaries, then even though you're helping other people, you might still be able to avoid the impact of compassion fatigue. But where you've been in a family environment or you've grown up in a relationship where there's been dysfunction, there's been suffering, there's been unresolved trauma, painful memories, challenging, a denial of your emotions, then those are the sort of people that might find in caring professions later on and more sort of have more chance of struggling with compassion fatigue themselves. So it's really interesting that there's this sort of old what happened in your formative years can have such a big impact on how you are as an adult, even when you're choosing to go into these caring roles. So I wanted to start us with a breathing practice. So you might have heard of this. This is 6363 breathing. It is a mindfulness practice, but also, sorry, I didn't explain earlier on. I help people with mindfulness in the workplace, but I'm also a pranic healer. So I help people with a non-touch complementary energy healing technique called pranic healing. And pranic breathing we use while we're treating people to protect our own energy while we're filling other people up with energy. So it's very similar to the sort of self-care we're talking about for you. So this is a pranic healing method as well, and it's very good for reducing the stress response. It's very good for bringing online the parasympathetic nervous system to help us calm and relax and digest. But because with pranic healing, because it has this empty retention as part of the model, when we breathe back in after empty retention, it sends a lot of life force energy, a lot of prana all around our system. So it helps our body to regenerate, revitalize, and feel better as the fresh life force energy is flooding our system. So this is a really brilliant practice. And so we breathe in for 6, we hold for a count of 3, we breathe out for 6, and then we hold for a count of 3. And it's those holds, those empty retentions before we breathe back in that really help flush lots of really good life force energy, prana around our system to help revitalize us. So if you want to join with me, we'll just spend a few minutes now doing this breathing practice together. And I should say, if you're not comfortable practicing in this group, then you're very welcome to just, listen and practice in your own time when you feel more comfortable. So let's start by breathing in for a count of 6, and ideally you want to be breathing bringing breath into your belly, expanding your belly with the breath in. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, 2, 3, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, 2, 3. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2, 3. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2, 3. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, 2, 3, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold, 2, 3. And we'll just do one more. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, 2, 3, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold, 2, 3. So hopefully you might now feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more relaxed. You might feel a bit more energetic around your physical body. This is a really great exercise to just do whenever you can sort of find a space in your day to just stop and pause and do some breathing. And maybe it's while you're waiting for a change of shift, or for the kettle to boil on your break, or when you're transitioning from one part of a building to another. Just a great way to just reground yourself, bring yourself back to a sense of calm, to the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're welcome to share a word or two in the chat if you like, and Paul will have a look about how you found that breathing exercise, whether you've tried it before. If you could just pause once or twice a day for just 3 or 4 minutes to do that practice, I think you'd already start to feel the impact on your daily well-being. So let's move on. So what are the signs of compassion fatigue? What might you see in yourself or the people that you work with that would signal to you that maybe there's a challenge here with compassion fatigue? So I won't go through all of these because you can read them on the screen, but generally it's this sense of feeling overwhelmed, exhausted. There may be emotions like anger, sadness, irritability, physical symptoms like headaches, nausea, digestive ill health, difficulty sleeping, difficulty concentrating at work and making decisions, maybe some conflict in relationships. Then there's these sort of elements that are a little bit more related specifically to the work that you're doing, a sense of helplessness or powerlessness in the face of the suffering that you're helping with others, maybe ruminating on what people are going through, sometimes a decreased sense of accomplishment. This problem's too big for me to have an impact on. I'll never get it sorted. I'll never finish. I'll never be able to have the impact I want. Reduced empathy around the people that you're helping. And this can lead on to this sort of sense of detachment, numbness, emotional disconnection, where you try to withdraw, isolate yourself from not only the people you're helping, but the family and friends and loved ones that might be able to help you come out of that place and into a more joyful, uplifted and sense of well-being. And then also this trigger we see often is people find a loss. They start to lose interest in some of the things that would previously keep them motivated, enjoyed, and having a positive life balance. So it's really curious, this thing about well-being. There's almost like this funnel of well-being, and maybe you've heard of this before, where when we're feeling really well and healthy, we've got sort of at the top end of the funnel, it's really wide, we're feeling great, we're doing all the things that help us feel good, we're connecting with others, we're healthy eating, we're doing exercise, we're getting fresh air, we're doing things that give us a sense of purpose. But when we start to feel we start to decline our well-being, we start to struggle a little bit or suffer a little bit, we can suddenly find that we haven't got the time or perhaps the energy or the inclination for doing all of those things that we know would keep us at the top of the funnel and keep us feeling well and fit and healthy. So we sort of stop having time to go to the gym. We don't have time to make a nutritional meal or just eat something quickly. We don't have time to meet family and friends or go out for a walk. So we sort of reduce our lives when we feel a bit under the weather or we're struggling with well-being, and we cut out all of those things that would help us continue to feel great. So if you see those sort of things happening, it's possibly a sign that compassion fatigue could be starting to have an impact. And obviously these symptoms can feel very similar to normal burnout or normal stress at work. And the difference here really is it's about your interaction with caring for other people. So it's dealing with other people that are causing some of these symptoms and some of these challenges. So it's dealing with the suffering or trauma of other people and starting to feel like it's having a chipping away effect at your own well-being. So I'm going to move on now to another practice. This is called the self-compassion break. Excuse me, I have a drink. This is a really wonderful short practice that you can use. It's by Dr. Kirsten Neff originally, and it just helps you treat yourself with some kindness and warmth and compassion when you're struggling. And so we all struggle at work one time or another. But when it happens to you, it can feel quite challenging and quite difficult. And the research into self-compassion is that whilst we see other people struggling and suffering, we're very quick to support them, to offer them encouragement, patience, support, and validation for what they're going through. But when it's ourselves that are suffering, we can have a much different approach. We can be quite harsh and critical to ourselves, belittling to ourselves. We can be impatient. We can blame and criticize ourselves, add sort of stories around additional suffering, like stories like, I'm always rubbish at this, I knew I wasn't as good as everyone else, and sort of start heaping on lots of blame and criticism. But actually, when we look at the research, if you're able to take a more self-compassionate approach to yourself and sort of fill up your own reserves of self-compassion by pouring compassion inwards, you actually have more compassion then that you can share out with the world around you. So it's additive, whereas often people that are these sort of other directed people feel like they've got a reserve of compassion and it's their job to share it with the world without keeping any to themselves. But actually it's the other way around. The more kindness, compassion and love and gentleness that you can treat yourself with, the more of that you can share with other people. So in this practice, what we're doing is we're taking a moment of suffering, we're applying some mindfulness to it, we're seeing it as that moment of suffering, we're recognizing it, we're acknowledging it, allowing it to be there, not trying to push it away or feel that we haven't got time for it. We just recognize this is difficult. We connect into the common humanity. So when we're in our right minds and we're being pragmatic, we know everyone struggles one time or another. It's just, humans are supposed to have a wide range of emotions and experiences that they can learn and grow from. And so everyone has ups and downs. But when it's us that's suffering, we can often feel like quite isolated. This is only my challenge. No one else is having to deal with this. I'm alone in this. So when in this practice, we connect to common humanity to remind ourselves this is just part of normal life and everyone feels the same at some point. And then the final stage is self-kindness. So offering ourselves the same sort of kindness and gestures of support and love that we would someone else. So if you want to just join me with this practice, I just invite you to sit quietly, maybe close your eyes or take a soft downward gaze. And we'll just take a few moments to run through the practice together. So if you just bring to mind a situation that's proving somewhat difficult for you at the moment, maybe a difficult, challenging situation at work, maybe a conversation you've had that's made you feel uncomfortable, maybe it's a relationship or health problem, and maybe it's something outside of work as well. So just choose something that's mild in the mild to moderate category. Don't choose the most catastrophic thing that's going on for you at the moment. Just something that's caused you a bit of suffering and maybe you've gone a bit into self-doubt or criticism of yourself about it. And if you bring that situation to mind, and if you can't think of one that's happened recently, perhaps just imagine one that might happen soon. And if you start to bring that situation to your mind and think who was there, what happened, who was involved, how did you feel, and just have a look to see whether you can find in your body what's the sort of distress feeling like in your body, what's that suffering feeling like in your body. And quite often we can feel like I can now, my stomach sort of feels a bit churning up a little bit, it feels tight and constricted. Other people sometimes feel their shoulders like hunching right up to their ears and feeling really stiff. Or maybe for you it's your jaws like clenching, or your hands are clenching and feeling stiff. So with mindfulness, we're just looking into our body and seeing, where am I holding this suffering right now and what does that feel like? And we're not trying to push it away. We're just giving it a moment to be there, to be recognized, and giving ourselves permission to have this experience. And you might even like to validate it verbally in the way you would a friend. So perhaps using some words like, oh, this feels really hard. I'm struggling right now. This doesn't feel good. Just naming it just to help validate it yourself. And then part 2 then is that we connect to the common humanity. So we know that when we're suffering, we're not alone. Other people will have been through these situations. Someone else in the same situation as you might be feeling quite similar or maybe even worse than you. we're all in life together. We all have our ups and downs. Everyone struggles at some point, and everyone's just doing the best they can day in, day out. So again, you might just want to use a word or two to reassure yourself that you're part of humanity and this is part of everyday life. So maybe something like, I'm not alone in this. Other people would find this hard too. Everyone struggles at some point. And so just reassuring yourself as you reconnect with common humanity. And then the next stage then is we're going to try and see if we can offer ourselves a different approach to dealing with this struggle, this suffering we're dealing with, and this distress in our bodies. So if you found somewhere earlier on where you were holding stress, for me it was my belly, or your shoulders, whatever, wherever it was, see if you can just pop your hand gently on that area and perhaps give it a little rub or just a warm stroke, or just holding the warmth of your hand against your body. And as I'm sure you all know better than me, our bodies evolutionarily are primed to receive touch and to find it soothing and supporting right from when we're a baby. So if we can sort of touch ourselves, give ourselves a little pat or a little hug, it actually starts to send sends messages to our nervous system that we're safe and that we're calm and we can settle down. So whatever expression of kindness and warmth you can give yourself, do that. And you might like to strengthen that intention again by using a few words. So perhaps it's something like, may I be kind to myself right now? May I give myself the compassion I need to get through this difficulty? Or may I be kind to myself? And if you're a very visual person, you might like to imagine sending warmth or love through your fingertips, through your hands into your body. And then the last stage of this practice, which is one that you can shortcut to if you've really not got enough time to go through the whole 4-step process, is imagine a friend of yours or a loved one is going through the same problem, the same challenge, the same suffering that you're going through. And think about, what words would you say to them? How would you support them? How would you validate their experience? And what tone of voice would you use? What would you say to them? What gestures of kindness would you give them? And then see if you can just turn all of that round and send it all to you instead. So use those same words, that same tone of voice, those same gestures of kindness to yourself. And try to really let that in, let those feelings in, let those kindness and expressions of warmth and love into your system. Let them sink in and give yourself that same blessing, that same kindness. So when you're ready, you can come out of that practice and back to the screen. Hopefully you found that was a nice practice. We went through it together. We went through each stage quite quickly. You can take your time over it if you've got time on your own, or you can go straight to step 4 if you prefer. But it's just about reminding yourself we're all struggling. This is hard. That's okay. Other people would struggle too. Now be kind to yourself. So hopefully you found that a useful practice. So I wanted to just move on a little bit now. And if you want to share in the chat some comments or questions around that practice, please do so. Paul will pick those up for us later on. So I wanted to just go through a few personal strategies for building resilience to help you overcome the threat of compassion fatigue. So we've talked about this one already quite a lot. Make yourself a priority. Find something that provides authentic, sustainable self-care for you, whatever that means for you. So maybe it's yoga, exercise, fresh air, meditation. Maybe it's good getting enough sleep. Maybe it's eating really healthfully. Maybe it's seeing family and friends or speaking to family and friends regularly. Maybe it's pursuing hobbies or activities that light you up and give you a sense of purpose and joy and balance. Maybe it's getting professional help if you need it. So just finding some self-care and making sure that that is a priority in your life, however short or small it may be. And when you're struggling, remembering that funnel of well-being, and when you start to feel like perhaps you're not working as well as you could, or you're not feeling as great as you could be, coming back to those elements of self-care that bring you back up to the top of the funnel. Self-compassion is another strategy. We've just been through that self-compassion break. And later on, if you stay for the meditation, that's going to be about generating compassion too. So just remembering in times of struggle, you're not alone. You can pause, you can recognize the situation, you can give yourself what you need in that moment to feel better. Developing self-awareness, and I use mindfulness for this, but there's other ways to do it too. The more we know ourselves, we understand our thoughts, our emotions, our physical sensations in our body, the more we're able to recognize when we're having a dip, when things are starting to get to us, and start to put in place strategies to help us overcome that. But mindfulness generally is also wonderful for lots of physical, mental health issues. It can help with stress, anxiety, depression, burnout, overwhelm. It can also help rewire our brain to be more resilient, to have more equanimity, so we can go through life and sort of remain in a calm and composed position, even when we're sort of in the midst of the challenges and the crisis and the challenge, and and the everyday stresses of daily life. So mindfulness is really wonderful for bringing about that equanimity, so you can protect yourselves even when you're going through a difficult time. And then self-discovery. So like we mentioned earlier on, a lot of people working in caring professions have that other directedness. So if you can start to understand perhaps why some of these triggers exist for you, why some of these behaviors exist, why some of these values are yours and where they might have come from, you can start to then do some healing, do some releasing, and start to remove some of those things that are probably not, might have been serving you very well when you were a small child and you didn't know much about the world, but now as adults, we're more in control. And if we can understand what that's those small wounded children, what their sort of what their beliefs are, what their limiting factors are, how they're holding us back in our lives, we can start to have a different relationship with them, give them some healing, and then move on and start to take control as the adults that we now are, with all the knowledge and information that we now have. So moving on then, obviously there's some organizational strategies for resilience too. And the research into compassion fatigue was quite interesting in this respect, because it actually shows interventions at an organizational wide level, cultural level, actually have a much greater impact on promoting the health and well-being of teams than those things that we can do individually. So that's not about giving up our responsibility to look after our own care, but just if we're in positions of management or leadership, or we're able to have influence, trying to work with others in the organization to have more cultural acceptance of self-care and well-being is a great strategy. So some of the things here are potentially taking time to work together to assess the levels of compassion fatigue in your organization, understand how people are feeling, what they're struggling with, bringing people together, asking what matters for them, creating a shared vision of the future. All of those things can help sort of set a vision and start to change a culture for it to be more supportive for people and their well-being and their resilience. Good management and leadership is really important, taking steps to make sure that the carers in the organisation can provide safe, effective care for their clients, and improving the culture and efficacy of the working environment, making sure people have the resources and support they need, aiming towards people having more compassion satisfaction at work. So that's the pleasure that we get from when we derive from when we're working well, we're having an impact, we're doing work that we love, we're helping others, we're working with colleagues, we're intellectually stimulated by what we're doing at work. And it can provide a sort of emotional counterbalance to the impact of compassion fatigue. And then obviously leadership and management also set the culture, the tone, the working environment. So it's important that they role model behavior, they advocate for necessary changes, they allow a culture where people feel safe, psychologically safe, to raise concerns about health and well-being and get those listened to, understood and responded to. And then just generally moving to the bottom left here, supporting a culture of organisational wellness, whether that's through giving people space and time to understand their feelings and to get the help they need, whether it's providing knowledge and resources, training and support, promoting social support and communities at work where people can get peer support and sort of uplift each other when they're going through difficult times. And then just sort of having a cultural acceptance of the ways that you work and the ways that work that would help you overcome compassion fatigue or feel more resilient and have more of that compassion satisfaction at work. And then obviously stress. So we all know that workloads these days are stressful. The working environment's often stressful. The energy around us often has a lot of stress in it. So for organizations, it's really important that they have a stress management strategy, they have an assessment of the stress, they understand which roles are more predisposed to having stress in them, to understand where unresolvable stress exists in the organization. And then they can start to look at workloads, hours, pressures, scheduled staffing, all of that stuff, to try and put the resources where it really needs to be to ensure that stress overall is reduced across the organization. And again, resources, coaching, training, mentorship, all of these things are important to help people understand the impact of stress and how it can impact both their working lives, but also their health and well-being, and the health and well-being of the whole organization. So I just wanted to share a couple of really quick techniques that other organizations have used. You may have these already. The first one is the pause. So this was invented by a man called Jonathan Bartles in America. It was to recognize that people in emergency rooms in America who were dealing with road traffic accident injuries and patients, and sometimes as much as a whole team of people would be trying to help this patient and save their lives, sometimes resuscitation didn't work and people would die. And what he found is people would go through this sort of working together really hard in this high-paced, stressful environment to try and save someone's life. And when it didn't work out and they lost the person, the team would just immediately leave the room and be sort of facing and confronted with the next emergency, or the next a group of people that needed their help, or the next load of paperwork to deal with, or grumpy patients to deal with. And they weren't allowing themselves time to fully process and acknowledge what had happened in the sort of recovery room. So he invented this pause. It was a 45-second pause for them. And they literally, at the end of the process, when they were trying to save someone's life and it hadn't worked, they would just sit in silence for 45 seconds together, the team that had tried to save this person's life, acknowledge that they'd lost someone, honor the support of the team and the hard work of the team in the room, and recognize the impact of losing this life had on the people, the loved ones of the patient. So it was just that little momentary pause to allow people to reset, to start to process, to regain their composure before they walk out of the door and get faced with the next lot of patients needing their help. And it became really successful. And in fact, it's so successful that most clinical environments in America now use something similar in the emergency room, but also other parts of the clinical environments too. So something to have a look at if you haven't got this in your organization, maybe something to have a think about. And then the lavender code is a similar thing. It just is a code that is culturally accepted. Anyone can use it when they need that moment of extra time to just deal with something that's triggered them, that they found difficult, that's caused suffering for them. So it's just flagging, I need a moment here. I might need to go for a bit of fresh air, have a glass of water. I might just need to call a friend. I just need some support. And when it's culturally acceptance, by giving it a name, the lavender code, the people around you realize, oh, you're not just slacking off, you need a moment. And they're happy to deal with, to let you have your moment, to cover your work, because they know at some point they're probably going to need that moment too. So just two little ideas there for what you might have a think about in your working environment. Okay, so moving on. Before we get to Q&A, I just want to talk about how I might be able to help you and your teams and the support that is available. So I run programs like this, workshops, meditation sessions for organizations just like yours, for charities, for organizations in healthcare, businesses. And I spend a lot of time helping them with alleviating stress and burnout and compassion fatigue in the workplace, boosting their well-being and resilience. And when you do those things, these other bullets here start to happen too. People become more focused, they're more engaged, they're more productive. Their creativity and innovation is unleashed. The more we can get people focused on their well-being and their resilience and developing that equanimity, the more they're able to bring back their original passion and joy and thrive at work. And what I like to do is, like we've done today, is run tools and practices people can integrate quickly and easily into their working day, mindful that people can't always go out and roll a yoga mat out and find 10 or 15 minutes in their day to meditate. So it's about how can you integrate tools into your working practices in order to give you that moment of relief, that moment of respite, that moment of resilience during your working day. And then, as I mentioned earlier on, I'm also a Pranic healer. So I offer one-to-one healing techniques, but also well-being clinics for organizations where in just 10 or 15 minutes, I can treat an individual in a wellbeing clinic and take a little bit of stress and anxiety out of their energy field, give them some revitalizing energy, and help them feel a little bit more revitalized and energetic for the rest of the day. So pranic healing is wonderful. It's a non-touch healing technique. It's great for alleviating physical health problems, mental health, and psychological problems, and it restores our physical and emotional well-being and vitality. And the other quirky thing about pranic healing is, given we were talking about other directedness, there's actually, and it works on the chakral field of the body, the energy field, and there's actually a little technique you can do to start to correct that other directedness that some of us might have been brought up with. So it can start to have that ability to balance your energy system in a way that allows you to provide your own self-care a little bit more than everybody else's. So I wanted to share some resources, because obviously this has been a very short webinar today, and I'm mindful that you're all rushing off to the next part of your day. Paul's going to share these links in the chat, and if that doesn't work, he's going to send them out afterwards. I run a free mindfulness session at lunchtimes, usually once a month, usually the first Friday of every month between 12:30 and 1. You can sign up there. And you don't have to let me know if you're coming. You don't have to be there for the whole half hour. We just turn up, have a quick chat, meditate for 10 or 15 minutes, finish the meditation, have a final chat, and off we go. So you can drop in and out as and when you need to, as and when it fits into your schedule. It's just a little moment of mindfulness into your working month. I've also got a mindfulness at work guide with some extra tools and practices and ideas for how you can integrate the benefits of mindfulness into your working day. And then obviously I do pranic healing. If you want to hear about individual consultations or wellbeing clinics for your organization, my contact details are there, and you can find out more both on my website and on LinkedIn. So that's all I wanted to do. If you've got any questions, I'm really happy to take those now. And if not, or after questions, we can move on to the final meditation that we're going to cover today. So Paul, over to you. I can't see you, so I'm trusting you're still there. Yeah, there you are.
Great. Thank you very much, Karen. That's very enlightening and insightful. I have just shared the links that you've got on screen in the chat as well, and I will share the. We had a question asked, someone asking about the slides. Are you okay for me to share the slides, Karen, at the end of the session for people to access?
Yes, if you like, I'll send you like a PDF version, which will be easier to email, because this one's quite heavy with photos and things. But yeah, absolutely, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. If I can't find a way of sharing them in the chat, then they'll be emailed out to everyone who has joined today. So that you'll get them one way or the other, and hopefully everyone can see those links in the chat as well. So we've had a question from Fenella. Fenella asks, well, it's more of a sort of statement. She says, if I have a problem, maybe something that happened at work, I find I can't stop thinking about it, even lying in bed and turning it over and over in my head. So is there any sort of advice you could give Fenella for that?
Yes, it's very common, Fenella, and this rumination is one of the things that many people struggle with. So we spend a lot of our time worrying about what's already happened or thinking about what might happen in the future. And so I find mindfulness really helpful for this, because it helps us understand the thoughts that are going on in our mind. It helps us recognize, oh, it's just a thought. And then you can then decide what to do about it. Whereas oftentimes when you're in that ruminating, constantly whirring around, it's hard to even recognize what's going on. So with mindfulness, you can bring attention to it. Oh, that's a thought. Then you've got that, you can have a chance to pause, to go through a little practice. I use one called stop, which is literally stop what you're doing, take some deep breaths, observe what's going on in your mind and your body. So, oh, it's a thought. This is how it's feeling in my body. This is how I'm holding my body over this. And then by the time you've had that pause and you've checked in with your body and you've observed how you're feeling and what's going on, then you've had chance for your prefrontal cortex to come online, because when you're triggered by something, often it's your amygdala, the stress response, that's kicked in. So when you've had that chance to go through that four-step process, stop, take some deep breaths, observe what's going on, then you can proceed based on what your more resourceful, more wisdom-based mind is then showing you. So I think that's, for me, that's what it is. It's about pausing, recognizing what's going on, understanding whether there's anything you can do about it at the moment, and then deciding how to move forward. And if you're thinking about it during sleep, obviously there's techniques people use where they write about it before they go to bed. They sometimes have like a worry time. So they think they say to myself, they recognize they're in worry mode. I'm going to deal with that, and I'll deal with that in my worry time. And then they put a little time aside during the day, 10 or 15 minutes, where they just bring all their worries in and just think about them and then decide what to do about them. And then when a worry crops up later on, you don't have to think about it now. You're going to deal with it the next time you have worry time. So that's also a really nice technique. And then I hope that helps. The other thing that I really like, which you can Google, I don't have a copy of it, is the worry tree. And in a very similar way, it's a step-by-step process, but it makes you write things out. So when you're worrying about something, you can write it out through this process. And it's like a little flow chart. And just the impact, just the thought of, sorry, just the action of putting it down on a piece of paper and a pen starts to get you out of that rumination mode and back into that prefrontal cortex mode, so you can have a more objective view on what's going on. So hopefully that's just a couple of ideas that might help you, Anella.
Great, thank you, Karen. We at present don't have any more questions, so if anyone wants to ask Karen a question, feel free to drop it into the chat. So did you, so Fenella says thank you.
Welcome.
She'll try that. So just give it a little bit longer, see if anyone else has any questions.
I can start to introduce the meditation, let people know what we're doing as people are still doing the questions, if that's okay. So if you're staying for the meditation, it's going to be a cultivating compassion meditation, and it's going to be guided. I'm going to talk us through it. It's quite an active meditation, so I'll be asking you to bring to mind groups of people, and then we'll be sort of generating feelings of goodwill and compassion and kindness towards them, and then sending them to these groups of people using a series of phrases that will repeat, and I'll read them out and you can repeat them. And if the phrases that I use aren't the ones that resonate with you, you're welcome to use your own words. But it's just bringing to mind different groups of people at different time and generating feelings of love and goodwill towards them and sending them to them using those phrases. And if you find, as we go through that practice, it's really just about noticing what's happening as we go through the practice for yourself, inviting in feelings, seeing what's going on, not trying to push away any experience or cling on to any experience, not trying to strive for anything in particular, just being aware as we go through the practice of how it feels for you. And if your mind sort of starts ruminating, then you can just notice that as a moment of mindful awareness. As soon as you notice you're not doing what we're trying to do anymore, you can just bring your attention back without any judgment, any criticism. It's just what our minds do. And the more we recognize our minds have wandered off and bring them back to what we're trying to focus on, the more we're building those muscles of mindfulness and our resilience for the future. So was there any other questions, Paul, or should we move on?
Yes, you've had a question from Christopher. Christopher says, as I work 5 days a week, I often start feeling very mentally fatigued and burned out towards day 4 and 5. Can you suggest anything as I work as a ward manager and I want to give my team my best?
Yeah, well, it's great awareness, Christopher. So it's good that you've been able to recognize that pattern. I guess what I would suggest, and I don't know the role of a ward manager, but what I would suggest is trying to find something on days 2 or 3 that will start to revitalize you before you get to that slump in day 4 and 5. So whatever that might be for you. For me, it would be meditation. For you, it might be exercise. It might be seeing a friend. It might be jumping up and down on the spot to give yourself some energy. It might be doing some breathing exercises like the one we did earlier on. Just small things that you can bring into your working day. And if you sign up for the Mindfulness at Work guide that I put on the link there, it's full of ideas like this, little practices you can do, going out into the fresh air, looking up, taking some deep breaths, getting some more pranic energy into our life force energy into our systems, going for a walk. All of those things can be really helpful to start sort of putting little breaks of resilience, boosts of resilience throughout our working day and our working week, so then we can maintain that sense of well-being for the rest of the week. So yeah, I'd suggest maybe looking at that guide if you can access that for some other ideas of little short practices you can do. There's lots of them. So it's just finding ones that work for you. Is that okay?
Great, thank you, Karen. And we've had a response from Robert who says, great exercises, Karen. I like the stopping and the worry cycle one and the worry time list.
Nice, thank you, Robert. Yeah, you can, if you again, I think stop will be on that mindfulness at work guide. The other two won't be because they're not ones that I use regularly, but I'm sure you'll be able to find them somewhere on the old Google world.
Great. And Christopher responds, thank you, Karen. It's taken me a while to recognize this in myself. It's due to my role having a lot of conflicting demands, which can be overwhelming at times.
Yeah, so difficult and so prevalent these days that we just keep getting more and more stuff added into our roles, more responsibility, more admin, blah, 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 and without really assessing whether we've got the resources to achieve those still. So it's a really common complaint. Yeah, so I feel for you, and hopefully, your first step is awareness, which you've now got. So hopefully you'll be able to start trying some things to help improve that situation for yourself and for your teams. Yeah.
Great. We don't have any other questions now. So Christopher says, thank you for your advice. So yeah, we don't have any other questions. So feel free to continue with your meditation.
So that's wonderful. Thank you. It's probably going to be about 10 minutes. So if anyone needs to, it's going to be sort of a 3-stage meditation. So you can stay for the first one, but if you need to leave, you're welcome to leave. If you can stay, that's great. But Paul and I are going to record it, so you can always listen back at a time that's more suitable for yourself if you need to. Okay, so if you want to get into a comfortable position, actually, before we start, in case anyone drops off, just wanted to say thank you everyone for coming today, for spending this time on your own well-being, and hopefully you've got some ideas. Be in touch if you want any more ideas or want to talk through how I can help you further, and hope you enjoy the meditation. Okay, so get into a comfortable position. Ideally, your back straight but not stiff. I always close my eyes, but you can take a soft downward gaze with your eyes if you prefer. And let's just spend a minute to settle in. So just let's do those 3 long, slow, deep breaths. So breathing in through your nose, puffing your belly out as much as you possibly can on the in-breath, and then just letting everything go on the exhale. You might even want to do a big audible sigh on the exhale, just to let everything out of your system. So breathing in and breathing out. And just doing that 3 times at your own pace. And then when you've finished your 3rd breath, and just allowing your breath to return to its normal, natural rhythm. And then just becoming aware of your body, starting by noticing the areas where your body is supported by the chair or floor or bed beneath you. So maybe you can feel your feet on the floor beneath you, maybe the backs of your legs and your bottom supported by the seat of the chair. Maybe your lower back and your shoulders brushing up against the back of the chair. Just starting to ground into the physical body, noticing, becoming aware. In this way, we're just signaling to our bodies and our minds we're moving into a different part of the day. And you can just give that mind of yours permission over the next 10 minutes or so we're together to just let go of anything, any thinking, any planning, any to-dos. Just focus on this practice together now for just a few minutes. All of that other stuff will be ready when we're finished to pick back up. So let's start by bringing to mind someone that you love, someone that you feel care for, someone you feel safe with, someone who brings you joy and support and kindness and love. So it might be a member of your family, it might be a member of your team, it might be a pet or a child. Just bring to mind one person, doesn't matter which one, there's no preferences, just choosing one person to think of at the moment. If you're visual, you can picture them in your mind. If you're not visual, you can just imagine them there or think about them for a minute. And if it's challenging for you to find someone, then just imagining what it would be like to have someone in your life that provides this sense of support and makes you feel loved and safe. And then when you've got them, keeping that person in your mind, we're just going to invite feelings of goodwill towards them. I'm going to repeat some phrases and you're welcome to use these or use words that resonate with yourself if you prefer. So just imagine sending these feelings and these thoughts of goodwill to these people. May you be safe and free from suffering. You can repeat them out loud or in your own head, whichever you prefer. May you be happy, healthy, and strong. May you live with comfort and ease. May you be kind to yourself. Just keeping this person that you love, you feel supported and nurtured by in your mind. Once again, just sending them these words of goodwill, blessings, and happiness. May you be safe and free from suffering. May you be happy, healthy, and strong. May you live with comfort and ease. May you be kind to yourself. And then just pausing for a moment to see how that feels in your body and your mind. What sensations, emotions, feelings are here. Now we've generated this love and compassion to the people that we love. And then when you're ready, just shifting your attention away from those people, that person, and turning towards yourself now. So now we're going to offer the same love, kindness, and compassion towards ourselves. Remembering that we're always deserving of love, even when we're struggling, when we're finding things difficult, or when we're in fear. So you like me, you might want to put one hand on your heart or two hands on your heart as you go through this practice. You don't have to. Or maybe just offer yourself another gesture of kindness, whatever feels right for you. And just saying silently to yourself or quietly to yourself, may I be safe and free from suffering. May I be happy, healthy, and strong. May I live with comfort and ease. May I be kind to myself. Just knowing that you're deserving of love and kindness and tenderness, compassion. You're always deserving of this. And you can always send it to yourself. May I be safe and free from suffering. May I be happy, healthy, and strong. May I live with comfort and ease. May I be kind to myself. And again, just pausing for a few moments to experience how that feels in your body. Just noticing, not trying to change, not thinking about whether it's good or bad, your response, just seeing what's here for you now. And letting these kindness, comforting, loving words settle in your system. And then finally now we're going to bring to mind a wider group of people, expanding our awareness to people that we know, people that we love. You might want to choose, it's up to you. You might choose your family, you might choose your colleagues, you might choose your customers, you might choose your village, your town, you might choose the whole world. But just bring into mind a group of people who you want to share these compassionate, kind, loving, tender words to, offering your support and love out to the world. May you all be safe and free from suffering. May you all be happy, healthy, and strong. May you all live with comfort and ease. May you all be kind to yourselves. We're all humans, just like you, wanting to feel safe, loved, connected, just like you. May you all be safe and free from suffering. May you all be happy, healthy, and strong. May you all live with comfort and ease. And may you all be kind to yourselves. And then just resting here in silence and stillness for a few moments, experiencing any sensations, thoughts, emotions. Now we've generated these feelings of compassion and tenderness and goodwill towards ourselves and the people that we care about. Noticing how that feels, allowing it to be there, allowing it to sink in, knowing it's what you all deserve. And as we're starting to come towards the close of this practice, just appreciating yourself, appreciating that you've taken this time today to pause, to cultivate your capacity to be present, and to cultivate your compassion for yourself and the people that you care for and the people that you help and serve every day. And recognizing the benefit that this hour has brought both to you and to the other people that you'll be in contact with today. And remembering that connecting in this way is an act of self-care that you can access throughout your day whenever you need it. And if you like, you might like to set an intention to carry this quality of awareness that we've just developed together into the next part of your day. So in your own time, when you're ready, beginning now to reconnect with the room you're in and your surroundings. Gently opening your eyes when you're ready, taking any small movements or stretches or yawns, maybe a little drink of water, whatever you need to come back to your space. May you be well. Thank you. Well, thank you for staying on for that, everyone. It's lovely that you've been able to give yourself that space and time in your day. I hope you continue to be able to do that for yourselves and have gratitude for yourselves for all the good work you're doing in the world. Everyone appreciates it and is thankful for everything you do. So I hope you feel that, and I hope you've had some benefit today. do keep in touch if you'd like any more support. Thank you. Is there anything you wanted to add, Paul?
No, just some feedback now on the session. Robert says, great session, thanks, Karen. And Laura says, thank you very much, so helpful. Fraser says, thank you. Stephanie says, thank you very much. And Claire says, thank you as well.
You're very welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Sometimes the hardest thing to do, find that bit of time for yourself in the day, but so powerful when you do it.
Brilliant. Well, I'll certainly be taking forward some of those recommendations and advice, Karen. So thank you very much for joining us today and being our guest on the webinar. I hope everyone found Karen's webinar helpful and there's something that you can take away from it. If you look up higher in the chat, you'll see the links that you can find out more information and contact Karen as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll make the slides and the recording available after the webinar.
Perfect.
Great. Okay. Well, I'll say goodbye to everyone, and we'll stop the recording. But thank you everyone for attending today. It's been really, really interesting, and thank you very much again, Karen, for presenting.
Thank you, everyone. Go well.
Okay.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Stop sharing and see what happens. Oh, that's what happens.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. There you go. How was that?
That's great. I just end the event there, so that finishes the record.